Thank you. Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book, The Leadership Blueprint, no other than Mr. Bill Gruber. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Bill, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Thanks, Daniel. I am happy to be here. I have recently retired from a career in medical devices, having started out with Procter & Gamble before transitioning from selling soap to over to medical devices, and worked with large medical device firms, and then ultimately worked with small venture-funded startup firms, and founded one of those. Some were successful, some were not, but throughout I have learned from some fabulous managers and also made many of my own mistakes, and ultimately had some great success by the end of my career in leading and managing high-performing teams. And after retiring, figured I needed to give back and started writing about the successes I had at the end of my career and what I found to be a great system to help others lead dynamic teams.
Mr. Bill, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world, and thank you so much for sharing your book to the world. The core principle of the leadership blueprint, how leaders can apply them.
The key, I think, for most leaders that I finally discovered in the end was first, you really got to have a great vision. And if your team is not all working for the same vision, they're just not going to be as effective. I think the next key is connecting everyone's daily work to the vision, so everyone knows exactly how their day in, day out job positively affects the vision. And then next is to make sure that you've got people on the team that have a great set of values, and you're hiring more people who have the similar set of values, and that creates this real cohesive team. And then lastly is making sure that people feel like their careers are growing, that they're learning something, and they have great career development within their roles. And so they're not apt to leave, and they're really focused on building their own skill set while at the same time driving very strong contributions along with the rest of the team at hitting this collective vision that you, the leader, have set out for these folks.
Mr. Bill, how to build and lead high performing teams with high growth companies.
Yeah, I think the key for companies that are really moving fast is that you've got to really make sure that these guys that you hire are all singing off the same sheet of music. These people are all on board and have come for the right reasons and not just a paycheck, right? They want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. And that means you've got to be a better communicator as a leader, right? You've got to be honest. You've got to have a great degree of candor and be willing to share more than normal leaders would in order to make these people feel like they're really part of the team.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Being part is something else. Insight into leadership and personal growth for CEOs and senior executives.
Yeah, I think the key for anyone who's running a team, both new managers as well as experienced managers, is trying to figure out how to motivate the teams that they have, right? And I think part of that is making sure that you've got this candor, if you will, with your teams to make sure that everybody's kind of rowing in the same direction. I think, for somebody who's a CEO of a large company, one of the biggest challenges is you have many levels that you have to deal with within the organization. And so getting a message out to all the people in the organization can be quite a challenge. It's much easier in a small company. And so with that, you've got to make sure that everyone's goals are tied together. And that means that each group has to have a list of objectives and key results that they are working from, and that every other department and every other person's goals and objectives are linked, and people understand how those goals and objectives are linked, so that everyone's again pulling in the same direction, rather than different people working on different things that are incongruent and are going to pull the organization off into left field somehow. And I think that's part of it, the difficulty in a large organization. But these principles can work in both large organizations as well as small organizations.
Very well said, Mr. Bill. Very well said. How do you foster innovation in a high stakes environment like medical device development?
That's a great question. I think the key for us that took me a while to get to was making sure that we're fostering solutions from all the employees. And in the end, one of our core values in these organizations basically became that we don't care where the decisions, excuse me, we don't care where the problems uh, come from. We all have to kind of collectively work on them. And therefore, we don't really care where the solutions come from. For example, if the janitor can solve a huge solution or a huge problem that we have in our organization, we'll accept the solution from the janitor if that's what it takes. I think part of the problem that many organizations have is that the employee feels incumbent on feeling like they have to solve the problem themselves, right? And so what they don't do then is they don't reach outside the organization to outside help or to their colleagues to help them solve the problem, because they think it will make themselves look less effective, right? And so what we would very much encourage is that they seek solutions from outside experts, because the key is trying to solve the problem as fast as you can. And when I was with the big companies, one of my problems that I saw was that we'd internalize the problem, and maybe one or two people would start working on it, but they may take them weeks or even months to solve, when the better part of valor would have been to maybe call outside an expert outside, call MIT. In our instance, we had a problem with blade sharpening of a metal blade. And in fact, it was dulling really fast. And we ended up trying to solve it and failing. And so I encourage the engineers to reach outside and spend as much money as necessary to maybe call an expert on the topic. So what the guys did is they called a professor at MIT here in the Boston area, someone who knows this kind of stuff, down pat. And instantly, after 10-minute phone call, the professor says, "Well, you probably have an annealing problem," meaning that when you try to harden the blades and you put them in the oven, your oven heating is not uniform, and some blades are then not getting hardened, and others are getting hard. And once we knew that, and we changed the specifications on the oven, voila, our problem's fixed. Now, here's a guy, we can spend weeks working on this one problem, but if your people are really, challenged to seek the solution from anywhere, outside the organization or not, these guys went outside, found the solution to the problem within 10, 15 minutes, and ultimately we had solved our problem. And, that makes a huge difference in an organization. Small organization like ours, we're burning $20,000 a day. And if you get a 4-week delay because of one of these problems, and your people aren't empowered to go outside the organization, and you as a leader haven't empowered them to go outside the organization, that's a huge issue, right? So, but once they're empowered and you reward them, but with accolades, if they'll reach out to this expert at MIT who, boom, is solving the problem really fast, boy, then your group really feels like they can achieve greatness, right? They can really move. And so, as leaders, we need to make sure that our people feel like they're empowered to find solutions to problems. And honestly, all we as managers want when we hire anyone is problem solvers and decision makers, right? If people are really good at problem solvers and as problem solving and decision making, we're all going to win. We're going to win as a team, right? And so, we're not looking for people just to feel like they're doing the list of 3 things on their job they have to do every day. We want everyone in the organization, from the lowest part of the organization to the highest, feel like they're problem solvers and they can look outside the organization to solve those problems.
Very well said, Mr. Bill. Very well said. Beautifully articulated. What are the most what are the most important qualities of a high performing team?
The key for me is a team that communicates, right? And so if our teams are communicating amongst each other, right, and that can be difficult because everyone starts working in silos, and certainly that's more difficult across departments when people really are working in silos. So as a leader, one of the keys is to break down those silos and share with each individual department what the other departments are doing. And so in a small company, that can be pretty easy, right? So what we would do is we would have a whole company meeting every Monday. So every Monday, 9 a.m., the whole company comes in, we sit down, and my goal is not to be the talking head in the meeting. I'm there to shut up and listen, right? But what I need to do is prompt the team to make sure that engineering is telling marketing what the problems are. And marketing is saying, your problems may be real, but they may be perceived. The thing you're tripping over, for example, may not be important to the customer. So don't spend much time doing that. But if marketing always works in their silo and research and development's only working in their silo and they're not talking to each other, that's a problem. So as leaders, we've got to be able to get different groups to speak to each other in the organization so they understand each other's challenges and can help each other solve the problems. So how do we do that to make highly effective teams? We as leaders, you, Daniel, me, we have to try to break down these barriers that exist, these columns that exist between the various departments. And once we can get the groups to talk to each other and realize that we're all working for the same cause, we're going to end up in a far better place than if we don't do that. And we just try to manage the R&D team and hope they do their job and spit out a widget that marketing can then go sell. And then they spit out a widget that sales is going to go execute on. We want to make sure they're all talking along the way, and we're going to be far better off.
Yes, indeed. Communication, people. Communication is the key to success. And Mr. Bill, as an author, what will be your short term and long term goals?
Yeah, I think for me, I've already started writing my next book, which is more about how to manage your career. But it's got a ways to go yet. It probably takes some more months. But I look at my life in 3 parts, as kind of Andrew Carnegie said back in the day. That the first part is you're basically trying to get educated. The middle part of your career, you're trying to earn money, and then the last part of your career, you're trying to give back. And so now I'm in the last part of my career. And so my short term goal is to get the next book written, and my longer term goals is to hope. My intent is to try to give people advice that I wish I had had when I was just starting out and along my career that would have made the journey less onerous. Right? Would have been the journey would have been less difficult than what I had to experience. Right? So part of it's the give back, right? Or as some people say, giving it forward. How can I help others? How can I help my kids? I have 2 kids in the working world. What would I say to them that they could do differently that would make their lives easier as they pursue their careers?
Indeed. And good luck to your goals, Mr. Bill, and looking for more success. And what would be your advice for those people out there who want to write their own book?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think part of it is, at least for me, was find something that you're really passionate about. And I'm very passionate about this because I discovered all these tricks that I write about towards the end of my career, and I wish I would have learned about them earlier. And so, as someone is if you're looking at something that really gets you going and something that inspires you, then learn about it as best you can and try to figure out how best to simplify it and convey that to others who can really benefit from it. There are so many people who are eager to go learn about how to do things. But for those who are writing novels, for instance, there are also those who desire to be taken on an adventure far away from their daily activities. So I think whether you're writing a novel or whether you're writing self-help books like me, if you're passionate about it, the writing becomes very easy. The other thing I'd say to anyone who's thinking about writing a book, dictate your book, right? So you don't just have to sit there and type your book. Do as I do. I use software so I can just speak my book. And so I dictate my book, and you can dictate so much faster than you can type. And so I can make great progress in very short stints of writing, and then go back and edit it later. And it has been one of the secrets of my career, is dictating memos, documents, business plans, as well as this book. So I would really encourage others to do that.
Yes, people. And Mr. Bill, thank you for your advice. And what do you think the leadership blueprint, the legacy that bring legacy to the people?
I think that my hope and what I've seen with the people who have already purchased the book, the older people who've been managers for a long time said they wished they had the book sooner, and those who are younger, earlier in their career, are eager to try all of the tips and tricks that I lay out in the book in hopes of improving their lives tomorrow. Right. And not to say that if you aren't a long-term manager, it won't help you. It will help you make some adjustments to your existing team. But those who are just becoming managers, it will really accelerate your ability to be an effective one.
Mr. Bill, can you share a leadership challenge you've faced and how you overcome it?
Yeah, I had a startup company, and we had a failed clinical trial, and we were running out of money. And as we were running out of money because we didn't have revenue coming in, we were just spending venture capital money. About I was telling the employees along the way from 6 months in, hey, here's how much money we have in the bank. And the closer we got out of money, I was letting them know that I was going to have to lay them off, but I would lay them off with 6 weeks severance. So I would give them 6 weeks pay. So I knew when our cash out date was. I went back 6 weeks. And so I, in fact, had to do that because I hadn't raised the money in time. So I gave them all 6 weeks of severance on that first day of the ensuing 6 weeks, and said, I'll keep working for free and I'll keep raising money. But what I am going to do is, and you people all can go get other jobs if you need to, but I'm still going to pay you for the next 6 weeks. I'm going to keep holding my monthly staff meetings at 9 a.m. every Monday. And I'm going to give you an update on my success or failure at how I'm doing raising money. And so the time was going on, and every Monday, all the employees who, again, didn't work for the company any longer, they're all calling in, right? Every Monday, and I'm giving them an update. Okay, here's what I've done this week. Here's who I'm talking to this week. Here are the 3 most likely candidates who are going to give us money. And I was looking for, a lot of money, upwards of $5 million. And that 5 million would trigger another 12 million. So then we could have years of runway to build this company. And it was right around the Christmas holiday. And I only had probably 4 or 5 more days before we were going to have to just shut the company down completely because their severance was going to run out. And it came to a Friday. And I said, okay, at 4 o'clock Friday, I'm going to hear from the last company who's willing to invest in us. And if they invest 5 million in us, we will have 12 million more from other investors, and we will have a total of $17 million. And at 4 o'clock, I finally heard from the last company, the last venture firm, and they said, we're going to give you the $5 million. So I called all the employees on that Friday afternoon, and I said, okay, You may have other jobs. I realize that. But we're going to work on Monday. You can keep the 6 week severance. We've got money starting Monday. Show up to work. And they all came back. All the employees on Monday morning came back, with the exception of one who wanted to stay home with her children, and not go to work, which is fine. And the learning that I got from that was that if you are transparent with your people, if you tell them exactly what's going on, how much money you have in the bank, what the ramifications are for this running out of money, they don't disengage. They're more engaged. They're more part of the program because they know exactly what's going on. They know the implications to themselves in this whole situation. And so they could have all left and got other jobs and kept the 6 week severance. But I think they trusted in each other and the team dynamic that they didn't want to go somewhere else because they loved the fact that we had such a cohesive team and we shared all of the information between us. And that is hard to find. And that is this high performing team we all seek to have, one that can endure that kind of risk and still come out on top.
Mr. Bill Gruber, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. And very well said. Before we wrap up our discussion for today, Mr. Bill, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, People, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, book 101 review in its fifth season, comedy 101 in second season, food 101 in its fifth season as well, geography 101 and love letters are in third season, and my baby podcast mental health 101, movie 101 review and music 101 in its fourth season, and sex 101 and science 101 in its first season. Please do listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Bill, if you could, or how has your experience as a general aviation pilot influenced your leadership style?
Well, about 14 years ago, I was able to get my pilot's license and I fly regularly. And, the one thing that is really a parallel is hedging, right? It's making sure you have a backup plan for everything we do. And in business and in leadership, we always want to make sure we have a backup plan, right? And I think that as we lay out plans for our business, we can't assume that plan A is going to work. So we've always got to have a backup plan for everything we possibly do, is to take kind of these parallel paths. And if we do that, which we do in aviation, right? We always make sure we have a backup plan. We always make sure that there's multiple airports for us to land at. We always have a diverting airport to land to. We always have checklists that we're going through time and time again, even while we're flying. These things are great assets that we can use in our business world as well. So I think the biggest parallels there is the ability to hedge and make sure we have backup plans for everything that we're doing.
Yes, people, we need a backup plan for everything for our success. Mr. Bill Gruber, thank you so much for sharing your book to the world, and we are looking forward for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So can you please invite our listeners to support your book itself?
Sure. If you go to my website, www.billgruber.com, you will find there a link to the book. But also, I have uploaded or you can upload from my site, if you will, a whole recruiting binder. It's probably 60 pages long. It's free. It's a Word document that you can customize and make your own. Just type in your email address and instantly you can download it. And it's all about hiring people with similar values to what you have. So I spent a tremendous amount of time creating this binder, and it's free to anybody who goes to the website and wants to download that and customize it for building your own high-performing team.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Bill Gruber, because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Bill, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Really appreciate the time today.
More to come, people. See you soon.